Plan B is a backup birth control option that's there for you when things don't go according to plan. It specifically works after unprotected sex and before pregnancy occurs by temporarily delaying ovulation. Plan B is available nationwide at all major retailers and through delivery apps like DoorDash. No ID, prescription, or age requirement. It's the #1 OBGYN recommended brand of emergency contraception, and it won't impact your future fertility. That's freedom to be. Use as directed.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
Welcome to NeferTV, a podcast about TV shows set in the past. This season, we're recapping every episode of Spartacus Blood and Sand, which originally aired on Starz in 2010. My name is Anne Foster, and this is my first time watching this show, and I don't know very much about Roman history, but I'm with somebody who does.
Hello, I'm Gina Berry, and I have watched this show probably more times than I should admit to, and I know quite a bit about Roman history.
So this is the vibe we're bringing into this show. I'm just like brand new, baby's first watch, and you've watched the show like this episode numerous times. So Gina, you're coming in with like, and when we're going to go through the episode, you can explain, oh, this becomes important later. Oh, this is who this character is. So I think it'll be a good back and forth. You're doing the heavy lifting.
I'm here to fill in the gaps.
So for people who aren't familiar with who either of us are, can you explain your lifelong interest in ancient Roman history, like how you got interested in it?
I think I started studying Roman history in my early 20s. That was a long time ago. I'm not going to give the exact age that I am now. But I think I started studying Roman history because there was so much information available to me. In other civilizations, they wrote in text that really couldn't be deciphered. In ancient Egypt, they just had pictures. Well, how do you determine what that means? With Romans, they wrote in Latin. We know how to translate Latin. And my God, they kept such detailed records of everything that happened, whether it was true or not, that can be a whole other discussion. But they had such detailed records written in Latin that people today, even before us, could translate. So we could see really what was happening in ancient Rome. And because there was so much information available to me, I just dug into it because I didn't have to search far to find the information. Some other civilizations could take me so much longer to find information on. This is not the case for them. So I just started getting more interested in it because different shows and different movies would come out that would take place in ancient Rome. And I would love what they were wearing. I would love, sadly, the violence of what happened. I just got immersed in it because I just really enjoyed seeing what another time period felt like. And if you really stop and think about it, a lot of the different things of our current civilization, you see ancient Rome in it. Some of the government buildings, even some banks, they have the pillars in front. Well, that is just straight out of ancient Rome. The Senate building, other major buildings had the pillars in front. We have a Senate. They had a Senate. It was just, there's so many things about our current society that mirror the society of ancient Rome. And so I'm a firm believer in understanding where you came from, what happened in the past, to try to learn from the mistakes they made. Unfortunately, human beings don't learn those lessons well, but I really just wanted to study it because I just like to see how we got to where we are today. And studying ancient Rome allowed me to do that.
So when Spartacus Blood and Sand came out in 2010, you were hype, I would imagine.
Oh my God.
When I saw, oh my God, a new, because you're also, gladiators are like a thing you're especially interested in, I think, right?
Absolutely. And I think I was interested in them before Spartacus came out, but after Spartacus came out, that just heightened my interest in it. I couldn't even tell you how many books I have detailing so many different things about them, even some of the female gladiators, which that's a whole other subject too. But when I saw the first advertisement for this new show, Spartacus Blood and Sand, coming out, I will never forget. I ran downstairs and I told my brother, who also likes to study history, I was like, dude, this show is coming on. I've got to see this. And I was there because they were releasing it a week after week, an episode. They didn't give it to us where we could just binge it. I watched it week after week. Then I binged it, God only knows how many times, after all of the episodes were out. It was just, I was captivated by this show to the point to where I was able to recite some of the lines in the show. This show is just, it's an amazing depiction of ancient Rome and how the society worked and how gladiators worked. And even the way the show is it's still quite, it's not quite as gritty as what it actually would have been like back then. And so when you watch it and then you think, what was it really like back then? It was probably way worse than what we're seeing right now. It just, if you let your mind go there, you just start imagining so many things. And that's what I love about this show, is it just opens your mind to so many different things.
So I think it would be good to begin our discussion of the episode. There's several different cities and cultures that come up. Well, actually, no, I should say we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 1, The Red Serpent, directed by Rick Jacobson, written by Stephen S. DeKnight, who, as the show goes on, these two guys, clearly they were involved in the creation of the show because they're directing and writing a lot of the episodes. But can you explain, because again, listeners, like, I'm here for the ride. I've only watched episode 1. I want to watch them just before we record, so it's like fresh in my mind. So I don't know what's happening next, but there's an awful lot of places and cultures I didn't know about. So can you kind of set the scene for who, like Thrace, like what are we talking about here?
So the main character, Spartacus, is from the, I guess you call it a province of Thrace. They are considered to be Thracians, the people that live there. Thrace was a region that existed in ancient times that's part of the current day Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey. It spanned quite a distance. It was basically just kind of a gathering of warrior tribes that made up the people of Thrace. And they pretty much kind of tried to keep to themselves from everything that I've seen. But they were attacked because, that's what they did back in the day. Everyone was always attacking everyone. They were attacked by different groups coming from different areas. But it was mostly because they were a really vital section of a crossroad between trade of Europe and Asia. And we all know that if you had a larger civilization, a larger city, you're going to try to take over the smaller one so you could get a hold of whatever it was that they had that you wanted. And if you had a good trade route, that opened you up to invasion left, right, and sideways. They were going to come at you every chance they had. This area of Thrace was originally colonized by Greece, but then they were later conquered by Persians and then the Macedonians under Philip II and Alexander the Great. And then I don't know if they just kind of just started releasing their hold on Thrace, but eventually the Romans took them over and created them to be a province of the actual Roman Empire.
And so at the beginning of this episode, we're going to go like scene by scene through the episode, but just for my sake, at the beginning of this episode, it seems like they're sort of reluctant allies, Thrace and Rome, at least when the episode starts, right?
Yes.
They're like, let's team up to fight this common enemy, but there's like bad blood between them, obviously, the two countries.
We've talked about this in other times that we've had discussions. Rome really was kind of like the one group that everybody disliked. So if Rome is coming to you and saying, oh, let's team up, word has gotten to you at some point where don't trust those people over there because they're going to stab you in the back. So everyone knew how Rome was. And so obviously it would be smart to be reluctant to want to actually work with Rome because they know, what their MO was. They're going to come in, they're going to say, oh, we'll help you get rid of this common enemy. But really what it is we're going to have you sign up to work with us. Basically, we're going to have you tied to us for the rest of your life because you agreed to work with us this one time. And then we're going to say, we're going to help you, but we're really going to be standing in the background and watch you fight these people. We'll only come in if we really feel like it. But we're going to help you get rid of this common enemy, and life will be so much better for you. And then it just doesn't end up being that way, because you end up defeating who they came to technically help you defeat. And then they're like, oh yeah, but you already pledged yourself to us. So yeah, this is how it's going to be now. They overpromise and underdeliver pretty much every time they go and offer their quote unquote assistance to help with something. And so obviously the Thracians are going to kind of be like, yeah, we know how you work. Really, where's the benefit in this for us? And it ends up to where they overpromise, underdeliver, just like they always do. And that just kind of sets everything else off.
So we're definitely going to explain that even more when we get into the recap. But I think the next region you're going to explain is Gaul, which I want to say France, sort of, right?
So according to everything that I've studied, it is part of, because Gaul was actually a really large area as well. There's part of modern day areas in France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and parts of Switzerland, Netherlands, and Germany. However, most of the time when I'm studying Gaul, they mostly lean towards the Germany part of it. So I'm assuming that they probably occupied more of that territory than they did everything else, but they did kind of span into other things. So it would have been more of a France area, more of a German area that they sort of occupied the most parts of. They started out as a collection of Celtic tribes, and they were sort of known for being really good warriors. And you'll see that when we get further into the series, you'll see why they were known to be that. But the Gauls, they were really good fighters. They ended up like everybody else. They ended up being sort of outnumbered by Rome. Rome just had the numbers when it came to their military. And it a lot of times just didn't matter how good of a fighter you were. If you're outnumbered, you're not going to win. And that's unfortunately what happened to the Gaul people. Is the France section of it, they were conquered, and then everything else just kind of started turning into part of the Roman Empire. And then once the Roman Empire started losing their grip on everything, then the Franks took over, and most of it just became France as we know it today.
And so there's also a city that's mentioned several times in this episode. I thought it was a made-up city, but it was a real place just because I hadn't heard of it. It's called Capua. And what I first thought was, oh, that's where Romeo and Juliet took place. No, I was misremembering. Romeo and Juliet takes place in Verona, and Juliet's last name is Capulet. And so I'm just completely off base. But Capua was a city. It was an important city in the Roman Empire in modern day Italy, right? It's kind of like Rome was like the city, but there's other major cities, and this is one of them. Right.
Rome was the capital of the Roman Empire, but Capua was the second most important city in Italy. They were actually not too far from one another. From what I could gather, they were about roughly 105 miles away from each other. So later on, in the series, you'll hear them talking about going between Rome and Capua. And so you think back in ancient times, it's not like they just hopped on a plane and went where they wanted to go. They either were walking, they were horseback, or they were in a carriage. And so it's like you're thinking it must have taken them forever to get from Capua to Rome. And back then, it would have taken them quite a bit of time to travel 105 miles. Now, today, I would hop in my car and drive 100 miles and not think anything of it. That wasn't the case back then, but it was still easy enough. They still had a route mapped out well enough to where they could travel between the two cities fairly easily. The only thing you had to worry about was bandits on the road. So obviously anyone traveling between the two cities would have been, they would have had their protection. They would have had either some soldiers with them or just some personal paid protection that they had traveling these roads, because everything was dangerous back then. But the thing about Capua that made it so great is, it had pretty much everything else that Rome had, like with the amphitheater and all that sort of thing. But they had I don't know if you want to say ludi or luduses. Luduses doesn't sound right. But a ludus is a gladiator school where they train gladiators on to perfect the arts of whatever version of a gladiator they're going to be. There's many different types of gladiators, and we can get into that later. But the school is where they learn how to perfect those skills. And they had an amphitheater where most of those fights would take place. And I, in my studies, realized they had an amphitheater large enough to hold 60,000 people.
Right. So this is when you're talking about like arena concert tours. Like that's where my mind went to, like how many tickets are going to like these major shows. It's like that size. Like when you see a concert of like Beyonce or like BTS or whatever, it's like that amount of people. Yeah.
And so think that if it held that many people that came to watch this spectacle, how many people actually lived in that city or in the closely surrounding cities of Capua? I can't imagine seeing something that size in that day and time. Now we see the big NFL stadiums, whatever. We don't think anything of it. We're used to seeing something like that. But this particular building being that size, that would have, just the spectacle of it would have been enough to draw people in to watch the gladiator fights, because you want to be able to go back and say, I was there. The only difference between us and them is we have phones to record it to prove that we were there.
Yeah.
It was just...
They were like carving it in stone tablets. I don't
know. I wrote it on my papyrus. See, I was there. So yeah, Capua was a bigger city than what people might think, or people that know that the city actually existed. It had everything pretty much that Rome had. It had the baths. It had all that stuff. It was a bustling city. And really what made it stand apart was they had the ludus there, and they had the top of the top when it came to the gladiators. And so that was their bragging point right there.
And then just on this document where you're like, things that you want to explain, you have, you've mentioned, I should let listeners know, I'm terrible with names. So all like the names of all of the characters in the show, I don't know. But you have mentioned Legatus.
It's a Legatus.
Legatus, is this a character on the show who we've seen?
Okay, so no, Legatus is actually a title.
Oh, it's a title. Okay.
It's the title of a high-ranking military officer in the Roman military. Okay. And a legatus would be in charge of a legion. And if you don't know how many people are in a legion, there is between 4,000 and 6,000 men in a legion. So this one person would be in charge of this legion of men. And that would be your infantry. It would be your other military men that had titles that weren't quite as high as yours. So you would have your generals and your lieutenants, all that stuff. They had specific names for them, but you don't hear those names in the show. So I only brought out Legatus because that is the title of one of the main characters, the main character that butts head with the other main character. We'll get into all that later, but you're definitely going to hear the word Legatus a lot in this show.
And I'm just going to officially make this podcast be in the explicit category because you also hear the word cunt a lot in this show. I don't know if that's because it was shot in New Zealand, but like, I was like, whoa.
Yes, that is a favorite word of theirs. It's it comes out quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting too. The show, it's shot in New Zealand. There's a lot of New Zealand and Australian actors in it, and I appreciate that a lot of them are just using their own accents. They're not. They didn't make everybody talk with a fake British accent, which so often in historical things, it's like, let's all make everyone sound like BBC, like Patrick Stewart. Yeah. Like, so anyway, so I was like, oh, and then we'll talk as we go through because I was recognizing people from other projects that I knew.
Mm-hmm. And that was another thing that I noticed right away about it too, is about the accents. They have some very distinct ones between the different characters. And, you know, even the people that speak with a British accent, there's still somewhat of a difference in how some of them pronounce their words. It's always funny to me when you see behind the scenes recordings of these people when they start speaking in their actual accents compared to what they're using on the show. And then some of them, it doesn't change at all. So it's really interesting And again, I appreciated that they allowed some of these people because they weren't all from the same region. So they wouldn't all sound alike. And I really appreciated that, like you said, they didn't make everyone sound like they were Patrick Stewart. They allowed them to have different accents. Now, whether that's the way they sounded back then or not, we'll never know.
Well, we'll never know. They also weren't speaking English. So like it's a TV show. But
and speaking of that, you have to keep in mind, they speak in a very odd way, the way they put their words together. Because if you read how Latin is written, it's almost like it's backwards to forwards on how they structure their sentences. And so you might say a sentence that comprised of 5 words. For them to say the same exact sentence, they could end up saying 7, 8 different words because they just spoke in a different way. So if you watch the episode, you will hear them saying their sentences in more detailed ways than they probably need to. But that's kind of just how Latin was written. So obviously the writers of the show kind of took liberties on how they wanted to have these people speaking, but the way they form their sentences is interesting. You definitely have to watch the episode to understand what I'm talking about.
So if we're going to dive into the episode, it begins with a scene of the character who becomes known as Spartacus. But I want to shout out the actor Andy Whitfield, who sadly, I think this is widely known. He passed away. Like he filmed the first season of this show. And then he was in cancer treatment and then he ended up passing away and they recast the role for seasons 2 and 3. But he is so good in this. Like from moment 1, I was just like, oh, look at this guy. Like, first of all, he's like extremely good looking and very photogenic, like an interesting face, interesting features, physique, like, come on, but beautiful, deep voice. But he's such a good presence on this show. We were saying before we recorded, I just felt like he makes this show work. Like there's so many good things about it, but like if you hadn't had him, I don't know if it would have gotten a season 2. Like I think he's so good.
I agree. I think that he was perfectly cast for this. I honestly, I didn't mind the recasting of it, but initially for this show, there could not have been anybody else to play this part.
He's so good, and we get to see him do a lot of different things. Like he goes through the gamut. His character in this episode, he's happy, he's sad, he's horny, he's like you see all these different things. He's so good, and the episode starts in that classic thing where like at first you see him and the episode mostly is like, well, how did he get in this situation?
Yeah.
Sort of flashback.
And that's really the look he has on his face while he's sitting there alone, just kind of looking around like, what the hell happened?
How did, like, and a lot happens, listeners. Actually, I want to say, so like, we're going to talk about the episode in detail. So if you haven't watched it, like, enjoy. I listen to some recap podcasts about things I haven't seen, but if you want to watch the show, it's available on the Starz streaming app. You can also buy it on Apple TV. So if you want to follow along, you can do that. But we're going to talk about every single detail of this episode. So like spoilers. But so the first scene is like he's in the, like underneath, like we first see he's sort of underneath the arena. Mm-hmm. And there's a gladiator fight happening upstairs. And you've got some good details here, Gina, about sort of what this establishes. Like the gladiator fight that is happening while he's like chained in the basement.
Right. So he's basically chained into the holding room. It's about where they would have put the person that was up next to fight. So they could hear the crowd. They could hear the swords clanking. They could, just their anxiety could get ratcheted up. God only knows how many notches by hearing everything that's going on. I can't imagine how quickly their hearts were beating, hearing this, thinking, damn, that's going to be me next, out there fighting for my life, literally. And so he's sitting there just remembering what his life used to be compared to him sitting there now, getting ready to fight for his life. And so it starts out with them showing a man out there on the sands fighting a gladiator. He's fighting in the style of Marmillo. And this particular gladiator, he would have a legionary shield. So it's a longer shield. I don't know if you've ever watched anything that takes place in ancient Rome and they show the military. They've got these shields that they can basically hold up right underneath their eyes that covers the most vital parts of their body. So if someone is coming at them with a sword, that shield is going to protect them. Once you get below that, like around your thigh area, they catch you in your knee, it's over. They're going to cripple you, you're done. So this particular fighting style carried a legionary shield and a shorter sword. So it would make it easier for them to fight quickly because the shield would be heavy enough. You don't need a heavy sword and shield. And that was called a gladius. And you could wield that with pretty good force and fairly easily.
Can I say something about this too? Like, as a person who doesn't know about this, but watching the episode, like, it was pretty clear. Like, there's a gladiator and he's got the shield, the sword, a helmet, all this stuff. And he's fighting a guy who's wearing just kind of like
a loincloth.
Like a loincloth. I was going to say underpants. Yes, a loincloth. So, like, you can tell, like, it's not gladiator versus gladiator. It's like like the crowd is there to watch this gladiator kill this person.
Yeah.
Basically. And he's dressed like the way that we see Spartacus. So it's like, okay, Spartacus is not at this point the trained gladiator. He's just like the human sacrifice. He's like,
yeah. And so I wanted to make note that typically gladiators were slaves, or someone that had been captured in battle somewhere. Rome went and invaded somewhere. They captured all these people, and if they appeared to be a good enough fighter, a lanista, who is the owner of a ludus, would buy them and start training them to be a gladiator. So that's generally how a gladiator would come to be. But there were also times where free men would go and sign up to be a gladiator, and they would get paid to do this. And that would pay off in some sort of gambling debts or whatever they might have had some sort of debt in. And so they would willingly put themselves out there to fight, so their debts could be taken care of. These were free men, but while they were at the ludus, they were still pretty much treated the way the slaves were. If they were to die in battle, then their family would be given an X amount of money to sort of pay for the fact that he wasn't there to earn money for the family anymore. So those would be the two types of men that would be a gladiator. And then you had the different types of gladiators. So I just wanted to point that out, because not everybody in the ludus is going to be a slave. They could have willingly been there, which would have been a major decision to make, to get rid of your freedom, to get rid of your family, to go and probably die in the arena, like horribly die. That would be a heavy decision to make, but some people made it. So, but in this scene, you've got this well-trained, well-armored gladiator fighting this poor man in a loincloth, just swinging like crazy, just trying not to die. And obviously that's not going to go so good for this person. We don't see exactly how it ends. We see him get sliced up here and there, but we don't see exactly how it ends, because that's when Spartacus really kind of goes back into his mind and starts thinking about, where did I come from? How am I here?
Like, exactly. That question, the existential, but also actual question, like, how did I get here?
Yep.
Which is where we see, so it's a flashback to this kind of meeting. So first of all, we see, so Spartacus back in time, and you can really see that Andy Whitfield is gorgeous. So it's him and the rest of the Thracians, and there's like a PowerPoint presentation from this Roman guy who's like, here's why you should team up with us, Thracian.
And that's really how he comes across too. He tries to give bullet points of why you should be fighting with us, why you need to join the Roman auxiliary, because this is what we're offering.
And it's exactly like, the vibes are so much like Andy Whitfield, gorgeous. He's styled beautifully. He's got this like long hair with kind of like beads in his hair, but I want to say like not in like a culturally appropriating way, but in like a way that's appropriate for a white person. He looks amazing. He's wearing like not even clothes. Anyway, versus Craig Parker is playing this Roman. And I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, Lord Narcisse from Reign. What are you doing here?
Yes, that is him.
It's Lord Narcisse from Reign. So I was like, oh, he's always a bad guy. So I'm like, he's going to be a bad guy. And he's got this like unfortunate, like Roman haircut. So it's just like Andy Whitfield, gorgeous. And then Craig Parker, who can look gorgeous, but they gave him the worst haircut in the world. He's got no facial hair. And he's just like, here's my bullet points. You're like, okay, got it. Shorthand. Like, and we've seen this conversation, if I'm understanding this correctly, like, what's his name actually on the show? Craig Parker.
He's Legatus Glaber.
Glaber?
Glaber.
Oh, God, perfect name for this.
Right?
gross guy. So Glaber, he's like, yeah, we should do this. And then Spartacus speaks up and he gives this kind of speech where he's like, why? Like, why should we? I'm like, this is where you see that he's going to eventually lead a revolution because this guy's well-spoken and also hot. And you can see Glaber is like, who's this hot guy who knows what he's talking about? Like, you can see these guys, he doesn't like him. He doesn't like him because he's too competent. He's too gorgeous. And
he definitely has the look on his face like, you're making me look bad.
Yeah. No, so Spartacus speaks up like, excuse me, but everything you're saying is wrong. And Glaber was like, excuse me. But ultimately, they want, like Rome wants the Thracians' help to fight this third other group who are called the Getae. The Getae, which... Do you want to give Gina's history moment at this point?
We can. So the Getae in the show are represented as these mindless, savage, barbarian hordes of people that go and just attack whomever they like and rape the women, kill everybody, just take everything, burn the city down, and move on to the next one.
They're basically zombies. They're wearing these like full head skeleton masks. Like they're not even personified as people. It's just like these beasts.
Yeah, I mean, faces are painted white. They're really portrayed to just invoke instant fear in anyone that sees them. In all actuality, the Getae were considered to be the most noble and upstanding group of Thracians by Herodotus. Now, if you weren't liked, Herodotus was not going to portray you as anything but not liked. But he portrayed these people as the noblest and as well as the most just of all Thracian tribes. Now, does that compare to what we see in the show with these people with the face painted and the skull hats and just mindlessly killing? It doesn't. I mean, it says that if they had a guest, they would serve them food on gold and silver plates. Does that sound like a barbarian? I don't even have a gold or a silver plate. So,
the guys on the show, I think would just be like grazing off the ground like animals. I think they just like catch a bird in their mouth and just be like, argh. That's what this show, that's the vibe of the show. So I'm glad you're here to like justice for the Getae. Like they were not like this. This is a narrative choice They were. I mean, and it's not to say that they didn't fight, because everybody back then had to fight at some point, because someone was always going to try to invade you, whether you had anything or not. Someone was always going to try to conquer you. The Scythians at one point conquered them, but then someone else came along, helped them fight in the proper way, not the Roman way, to get rid of the Scythians. But then they kind of just all assimilated together and became this one big Getae group of people. Not saying that they were sitting there singing Kumbaya, but they were at least able to work with one another. They spoke words. They weren't just like literal animals.
Yeah. Yes. So, obviously they flourished for a while. They you're going to love this one. They minted their own coins.
Yes. Coin minting.
And they just kind of just, as much as they could, kept to themselves and had this really good life. Honestly, they had a good life. Not to say they didn't have a care in the world, but they had a good life. And then, this is someone we're going to hear about in the show, a Roman general by the name of Lucullus became the first Roman commander of there. And he was the one that was supposed to go and strike down Mithridates. Now, Mithridates, you'll hear about in this episode because he plays a big part in decisions that are made later on by Glaber. Idiot. Anyways, basically, the Getae tried to keep their way of life as much as they could. They later on formed a force with a coalition with the Scythians and other different areas that were around them to try to fight against the invading Romans. But eventually, Augustus decided he wanted to own all of that whole area, and he sent the force of the Roman army to take over, and all of Thrace fell to the rule of the Roman Empire. which unfortunately that's how it happened for most people. It didn't matter how many people you had, Rome was always going to outnumber you. And they were probably a lot more skilled with fighting because if you think about it, the Roman military, they practiced a lot. They
had like a standing army. Other places, like what we see here in this episode, they're just like, oh, let's go for a fight. Like you, Steve, like Tim, like you just like grab, get your guys together and like, let's go do a fight. And in Rome, they're just like, okay, you're a soldier and you're training every day. Like they just had better skills.
They did. And you just really didn't stand a chance against Rome. And they knew that. And they used that to their advantage. A lot of times, I'm pretty sure that just hearing the Romans were coming, people would get scared and just give in. They wouldn't even bother to fight because they knew that would be instant death if you fought. At least you stood a chance of surviving if you just let Rome come in and take over. People like the Gedi, they didn't just roll over. You know, they tried to fight, and you got to commend them for that. But ultimately, Rome ended up taking over. But the Gedi were not these mindless hordes of barbarians. They were very civilized people.
Gold plates, coins.
But you have to understand that you have to make things fit for a show or a movie. You have to make it interesting. I get that. And at least they took a group of people that actually exist. They didn't invent a new thing. Yeah, they just kind of portrayed them in the wrong way. But at least they tried to stay historical to using a proper tribe name. So kudos for that. But yes, that's the background of the Gedi.
Oh, thank you. So the Thracians have decided, like, okay, we will team up with Rome for this fight against the Gedi. And so the character, again, we don't know what his original name is. We just know he's later named Spartacus by the Romans. But I'm just going to call him Spartacus because I'm sure that's what it said in the script. So Spartacus goes to say goodbye to his very hot wife. And they do a thing where he, like, ties a piece of fabric around her thigh to be like, remember me. And they have this kind of, like, sexy scene together. And she says, I had a dream that you were kneeling before a red serpent. And like, if you go to war, you're destined for great and unfortunate things. He's like, babe, I gotta go. I gotta do this. I gave my word. He says it several times, like, I gave my word to the Romans. Like, I have to go.
Yeah. And if you think about it, their word was their bond. A lot of civilizations have been like that in history, where if they give their word, they stick to their word. They couldn't break it because to them, that was like an ultimate sin kind of thing. So that is why you hear Spartacus say that a lot, is I gave my word. And unfortunately for a lot of people, giving your word and sticking to that was what got you killed.
Yeah, he's just too upstanding and perfect of a person for this corrupt, messed up Roman situation. But so they go to, there's a battle scene. And so, like, the Gedi come in, they're like basically on all fours. They're like, we're monster people. The Thracians are just like, you know, cutting off heads and legs. And they're like, where the fuck are the Romans? And the Romans come at the last minute to be like, oh, hey, you guys handled it. Okay, great, thanks, bye. Like, the Romans don't really.
And it's so sad that they did that numerous times. You know that they put whoever was they were quote unquote fighting with, they put them out to take the brunt of the hit of the initial war starting. Yeah. And then they would come up and sort of clean it up and then be like, yes, we are victorious. No, you're a jerk that came later on and tried to claim victory.
This show is, I would say, not a pro-Rome show. Spartacus is our main character. He's Thracian, and all we see the Romans do, led by Glabus. What's his name? Glabber. It's like they obviously are the worst. And we see that they have these like luxury glamping tents where they're staying versus the Thracians are outside. And I want to just mention this. It will come up, but I don't want to keep mentioning it. The Thracians are wearing like not clothes. They're wearing kind of loincloths and sort of like a harness, but not a shirt, not pants, and it's snowing and they're outside, but none of them ever look cold. And that's because they're such badasses, I have to imagine.
Yes, their muscles are glistening and they don't
need tents. They don't, but the Romans are, they're so cowardly and weak. They need, heating and air conditioning. So Glabber is like hanging out at his glamping tent. And then I love that you wrote in your notes, Gina, like unrealistically, she comes to visit. So it's his wife. So it's this blonde woman. And she shows up in just like a fur coat and nothing inside, which there's a lot of boobs in this show. But later, when we later see how far they are, like they're in Thrace doing this fight. They have to go across the Adriatic Sea. It's like, this bitch, like she put on her fur coat with nothing inside and then went on like a multi-week ship trip just to like come up and like just to like have sex with her husband and then leave again. Like this is like you're from Rome to Capua is so far. And she's just like, I'm going to Bulgaria to like fuck my husband. Okay, like ma'am, calm down.
And just like I said, just everything about that is completely unrealistic because number one, a woman back then, especially a woman in high society, would not be allowed out of the villa. Yeah. She would not be able to just be like, screw it, I'm going to travel for days to
Rome. She went to Bulgaria.
She would not have been, because women, for as much maybe freedom as they had, they had to report to their fathers and their husbands. You didn't do things without permission. But in order to travel that distance, that would have taken a long ass time. She would have had plenty of guards with her. There's no way she could have snuck out of Capua to get to Thrace. There's none of that is realistic. They made it seem like all she did was just a quick horseback ride from Capua to where he was camped out in Thrace. And here I am. Let me throw up on my fur and you can ravish me. That's just nothing about that was realistic. But you know what? You have to take it with a grain of salt because it's
like the Jedi. It's like you got to get the story point across. And the story point is that she is the daughter of a senator. She is full of bad ideas, and her dad doesn't like Glaber, obviously, because he sucks. But she's like, she wants Glaber to get her father's favor. And she's like, here's what you should do, babe. Like, and it's all just bad ideas, right?
Constantly with her. I mean, and you'll see it episode after episode. She's always in his ear chirping, telling him what he needs to do in order to gain more favor, in order to get the glory that she feels he deserves and that he's arrogant enough to believe he deserves. It's just, white male arrogance. I'm sorry. He's abundant with it. And he, of course, is going to listen to the person that's gassing him up, telling him, oh, you can do this, that, and the other. It's his gorgeous wife. Yeah, he's going to believe he can conquer the world. And I mean, if he can do that, then her father has no choice but to back him in everything he ever wants to do. Because if you think about it, he wouldn't be Legatus without the senator. The senator would have gotten him in that position. But he would have only done it because his daughter played the I'm Daddy's little girl card and got it for him. And then Glaber's not able to really back up being a Legatus because to be in that position, I mean, you got to be running shit. Glaber ain't running shit. So, yeah, she's caught between the father and the husband. The husband is kind of on the outside because clearly the dad didn't like him from the get-go.
The dad had good instincts. He sucks. Yeah.
So it's just like, just a completely dysfunctional, bad situation that they just continue to make bad for themselves.
I want to also mention that she shows up and she brings some wine from Capua. And I'm like, wow, babe, like you put on a fur coat with nothing inside, took a multi-week journey across the Adriatic Sea just to like have sex with your husband. And you also brought this little, like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like a little
a lambskin. It's usually a lambskin leather pouch that they would put the wine in.
So she's like, I brought you the good wine, babe. Like, great, thanks. I just mentioned that because later on somebody steals the wine.
But you'll hear about, so it's called Sestian wine. Now, I've never really dug too deep into what Sestian wine is, but I know that that's considered to be the highest level of wine that you could get back then. It was not cheap. So you had to have money in order to get it. And so that's probably why the Thracian was willing to take it, because he knew it was going to be good wine. Because if it was in Glaber's tent, it wasn't going to be the cheap shit that they were drinking. But also, everybody drank wine back then because the water...
Because water's unsafe. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So everyone drank wine. It's just a matter of the quality of the wine that you're drinking.
So I do want to clarify. So the bad idea that she gives him is she's like, you don't need... Like, you should go after Mithridates and the Greeks and leave the Getae to the Thracians. So he's like, okay, I'm going to, like, I teamed up with the Thracians, but now I'm going to, like, but she's like, babe, you shouldn't do that. And he's like, okay, so this is why he's like, I'm going to not do what makes sense here, which is why I think it's the next scene. Spartacus comes in and he's like, hey, I'm the hottest and most capable person in the world. And I think this is what we should do. And then Glaber is like, actually, no, let's not do that. And Spartacus is like, but my idea is the correct one. And I am amazing and brilliant. And Glaber is like, except, are you though? No. So this is again, we're seeing, I'm like, this, I was watching for the first time with my boyfriend and I was like, man, Spartacus, he's got everything. Like he gives good speeches. He's got the military instincts. He knows how to like do everything. Like this guy's got like, and he's gorgeous. Like he's got the strategies. Like you can tell like where the story is going. Spoiler for history is that Spartacus is going to lead a rebellion of enslaved people against Rome. And I'm like, the show is really establishing. He's got the strategies. He's got the charisma. Like, of course, this is a guy who's going to do it. But
absolutely.
Like, well, I'm the main character of this show. It's called Glabber or Blood and Sand. Like, calm down. You are Craig Parker, Lord Narcisse from Reign. And like, I can't wait. I don't know what happens in the show, but I assume someone's going to kill him. And I'm going to be really happy when that happens.
And the thing about it is, it's been disputed if Spartacus actually even existed, but you would think that he looked like somebody like Andy. He would have been, great in stature and whatnot. If you look at, and nothing against Craig, because he's a phenomenal actor.
Look great, but here he doesn't.
He's a little man. Physically, he's a little man and he has little man syndrome. He really wants to be bigger than what he is in every way. And he's just a little man. And so it's just like, dude, understand your place in the food chain here. You are not the big dog. You have a big dog title, but clearly the person that gave it to you doesn't think that you deserve it. So slow your roll and act your height, but he just doesn't know how to do that.
No, I was like, we're going to get into this in the second half of the episode, but when they get back to Rome, I was happy that people there treated him like shit, because I'm like, like he's just acting up because he wants to be the big man because he's not the big man in Rome. So here he's like pretending like he is, but it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're facing off against Andy Whitfield. Like you're not going to win this battle, bro. Anyway, so he's just like, so he fucks over the Thracians. Like the Romans go one way, the Thracians are going the other way. And then can you explain, there's like this fight?
So what it is when Glabber basically tells him to fuck off, we're going against Mithridates. You guys can do whatever the hell you think you need to. But remember, you signed up to be part of the auxiliary. So be ready to fight where we say you're going to fight. So when Spartacus and the man that stole the wine get back to their encampment, they're like, we can't let the Gedi go because they're marching west, which is directly towards our villages, our unprotected villages where our women and children are. They're going to kill everyone, take everything we have, burn our village down. We can't let that happen just because Glabber is a dick and he won't fight the Gedi like he said he was going to. So they all decide that, you know what? You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. Go wherever you want. But if you want to go to your village and protect them, go now. And that's when they all dispersed and went back to their villages. To Glabber, that's considered desertion because they were heading east to fight Mithridates. They were not heading west to fight the Gedi. So that them leaving to go protect their family and their villages, that is basically a slap in the face to Glabber because Glabber made it quite clear to Spartacus before he left his tent, we aren't fighting the Gedi, we're fighting Mithridates. You went against what I said. And the little man is going to stomp my feet and scream because you didn't do what I wanted you to do. And because they did that, all hell is going to break loose later on.
But then also Spartacus throws a spear at him.
Oh, he throws it at, the
messenger. Yeah.
Yeah. He threw it at, I believe it was the tribune of the army.
Because I thought it was Glabber, and then Glabber showed up later, and my boyfriend and I were both like, wait, why is he alive? Okay, but he threw it at a different guy.
So what happened was when Spartacus looked Glabber dead in the eye and said, no, and he literally said, no. They clearly were not going to follow him. He was like, how dare you go against what Rome tells you to do? Well, because he's all animated and everything else is all animated, his horse gets spooked and bucks him off. Glabber's knocked out on the ground in the mud where he belongs.
Oh, okay.
But that just kind of sets everybody off. They're like, oh, fuck the Romans. Come on, let's fight them because they're trying to get us to those places we don't want to go. So all of the Thracians start attacking the Romans. Well, if you watch Spartacus in this scene, he's got this look on his face like, what the fuck is happening? This is not what I wanted. I did not want to fight them. I gave my word to fight with them against the Gedi, not Mithridates. They want to fight Mithridates. I'm not fighting with them. That's all I was trying to say. Why is everyone killing each other? I mean, he was really he was taken aback by how everything just transpired just instantly. And so they kill all the Romans except for Glaber, which they probably should have killed him, because had they killed him right there on the spot, everything would have been different. But the guy asked Spartacus, what do you want to do with him? He's like, leave him in the mud. Let's go and handle our business. Big mistake on his part. They disperse. They go back to their villages. What happens when he gets there is interesting, because what it made me think of was the women of Sparta. There have been different civilizations throughout history where women were just as much of a warrior as the men were. You know, it was with the Vikings. The women would be out there fighting.
You have to be. It's like all hands on deck. Yeah.
Rome wasn't like that. The Roman women, if they were high society, they were at home being pampered. If they were just a regular pleb, they were working to, just take care of the kids and keep the house going. Everybody else, the women were fighting. So when Spartacus is heading back to his village, to his wife, when he gets there, he finds his wife fighting the Gedi who had gotten there before him. And I got to give her credit. She was holding them bitches off like crazy. Granted, they got some licks in, but she was holding them off really good until he got there to help her. And then they were fighting as a team. I mean, it was like an epic scene to watch where they were fighting together to kill the Gedi that were there attacking her. Once they finish, they hear screaming. They run over to the cliff edge and they see that their village is on fire. So the Gedi that they were fighting was just a handful of them. The rest of them were sacking the city. So at that point, they're like, okay, well, you basically defected from the Roman auxiliary, so you can't go back there. Our village is gone. We can't go back there. What are we going to do now? So they spend the night doing things that husband and wife do.
Here's what, I'm going to take a pause here, because another moment that I think we're going to have every episode is, so we do have a brand partner, which is Common Era Jewelry, which is a woman-owned small business that makes jewelry inspired by the ancient world. And where applicable, I feel like I want to shout out one of their pieces of jewelry that I feel connects to what's happening in the episode. And they have a new piece of jewelry that's called the Lover's Pendant. And I was like, I suspect, not having watched future episodes of this show, I don't know if Spartacus and his wife are going to see each other again. So they spend this like passionate evening with each other. And so I just want to shout out Common Era. So,
and it's a beautiful pendant. I've seen it, y'all.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful pendant. I love it.
It's beautiful. So this is from their newest collection, Common Era, which is the fragments. And so it's inspired by, like stuff from especially ancient Rome. Like there's not like a whole thing left. There's not a whole mosaic. There's not a whole statue. There's just a fragment of it. And so this is inspired by a fragment of Roman relief. So it's kind of like a lot of it has like crumbled away, but what's left is just these two faces. It looks like a man and a woman, but it could be two other people. Just two faces turned towards each other. So the pendant is just the two faces, like in an embrace. The way that she writes about it, the larger scene has been lost to time. The body, setting, and story have fallen away, leaving only the kiss, a small, astonishing fragment of love that survived the ruin around it. And that made me kind of think about Spartacus and his wife, where it's just like bigger picture, catastrophe, but like they have this small moment together doing things that adults do a lot on this show and on Starz Network.
Right, because before he even went off to battle, she was obviously very sullen, and so she's really sad, and she tells him she doesn't want him to go, but when he says, I gave my word, I have to go, that's when she kind of like gets this stone face and looks at him and says, kill them all.
Yeah,
and he gives her this
great.
He looks at her like, I got you. And then he runs off to be in battle. So when he gets back and she's like, I'm so glad you survived. I hate how things went down, but at least I have you. And he looks at her and he says a line that will come up quite a bit in the series. He looks at her and he says, there is no life without you. And he truly believes that. That's why this pendant is like perfect for them.
No, this is what I was thinking. Yeah. It's like, that is them. Like all that there is each other in the world.
And that after he says that to her, that's when they go off and do their thing and they spend the evening together. And that is, unfortunately, the last happy moment of the episode.
I'm going to say, but if you want your life to be happier, you can get this pendant with a discount. So Common Era, like Tori, who owns the company, she's so lovely. Like she designs all the pieces herself. And it's beautiful if you want to get the lover's pendant or any other pieces from Common Era Jewelry for 15% off. You can use code NeferTV, so NEFERTV for 15% off your beautiful pieces of jewelry from Common Era. You can also go to commonera.com/NeferTV to also get that discount. Anyway, I just wanted to shout them out. And I agree. Like, I don't, like we're doing, like they're a brand partner. I want to shout them out, but it just, the design of this, it's like these two people clinging to each other and everything else falls away. Like, and I feel, again, I don't know the name of the actress, but Andy Whitfield is selling the hell out of this. I'm just like, he loves this woman. Like, it's such a, and then they're, of course, found in the morning, nude by the Glabber, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
He rolls up with a few of his minions and, just that's when the reality of the world just smacked them in the face.
Actually, first, I want to say, because this is like halfway through the episode. So I think at this point, we're going to take a little, I just shouted our brand partner, let's take a little commercial break and we'll come back to see what happens to these lovers and goddamn Glabber and everybody else in the show. So we'll be back after some commercials.
Starting or growing your own business can be intimidating and lonely at times. Your to-do list may feel endless with new tasks, and lists can easily begin to overrun your life. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything as a built-in business partner can be a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Gymshark, Rare Beauty, and Heinz, to brands just getting started. Shopify has hundreds of ready-to-use templates that can help you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. And you can tackle all the important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. And if people haven't heard about your brand, you can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you, with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns to reach customers wherever they're scrolling or strolling. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. That's shopify.com/realm.
Hey, I just Venmo'd you for rent.
Nice. Now I can instantly spend it whether I'm checking out online with Venmo or using a Venmo debit card.
Say more.
More exactly. Because the more you do with Venmo, the more you get. Like earning up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash on a bundle of brands.
So, order more pizza.
The math demands it.
Get the Venmo debit card.
Venmo Stash bundle terms and exclusions apply. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms. Venmo checkout not available at all merchants. Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
And we're live on match day as Doug reaches for a buffalo wing. He's got it! Oh, and he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! What a finish! There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi.
And we're back. Much like Spartacus and his wife waking up, and it's time for a bunch of more shitty things to happen to this hot man and his hot wife. So Glabber rolls up. He's like, God damn it, Spartacus, you're too hot and excellent. And also you deserted the Roman army and I'm going to separate you from your wife, enslave her, enslave you. That's what's going on.
And fuck you. Well, what it is, they're sleeping. They roll up on a couple of horses. Some other men we can't see, but we'll see them eventually. He just rides up, and all of a sudden there's a shadow over them, and they wake up and they're like, "Oh shit!" Because I mean, think about it. Horses are tall, and if you have a man sitting on a horse in front of you when you're laying down, it's going to be towering over you. That's going to be jolting to wake up to something like that. Instantly, as soon as they see him, a couple of the Roman guards come in, snatch her up, start running off with her. She's screaming, reaching for Spartacus. He's trying to get to her. Mind you, they're both butt-ass naked, so, take that how you will. Then some other guards come up, grab Spartacus, start beating the shit out of him, because obviously they're going to go by what Glaber said, and he's an enemy of Rome, so you need to beat the crap out of him.
Well, I feel like I want to point out, like, this is the only way you could catch Spartacus. Unawares, nude, sleeping on a cliff in the arms of his wife. You have to bring 25 men and all their horse, because he's such a talented fighter and so smart and so vigilant. It's just like, this is the only way you could have caught him, because otherwise his guard was down.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely. And so, obviously Glaber is like, you fucked me over, so now you're going to pay for it. So Spartacus, being the chivalrous man that he is, okay, fine. I did what I did. I own that. But let my wife go. She had nothing to do with this. Glaber, being the petty little bitch that he is, fuck you. I'm going to take your wife, put her in slavery. I'm going to take your ass too. And he says something that I want to say that it's been said numerous times in ancient Roman history, where he tells them the shadow of Rome is vast and you're going to die under it. So, yeah. And that's really how they viewed themselves, is they were the end all be all of civilization. And so because they had gotten so big, they felt like they couldn't be defeated. So if you went against me, you're going to fall under the shadow of Rome, and we're going to fuck your shit up. That was the attitude he had as a Roman military man. Add that to the point where he thought that he had been slighted by Spartacus. He was going to come at him with everything he had. And he could tell by the way he reacted that taking his wife was going to cut the deepest.
Yeah.
So that's why he was like, no, fuck it. He probably would have been willing to just leave her there by herself and take Spartacus away. But when he saw his reaction to her being taken away, I think that something in his head just clicked and was like, yeah, this is how it's going to go.
Because he's so threatened by his gorgeous masculinity. So Spartacus, he's knocked out and he wakes up, and he's on a ship sailing the Adriatic Sea, heading for Capua. I wanted to mention here again, as per ever, he's not wearing anything. He's wearing and he's like, his friend is there, the one who stole the wine.
Some of the other guys from their auxiliary group, the ones that they could capture, they captured.
So there's some people there he knows, but they're sort of they're below decks on whatever the ship is, and just water splashing in. But as per ever, impervious to the cold, no clothes on. And I'm like, you know what? Who's going to survive this journey like this is this guy and his friends.
And keep in mind,
don't need shirts.
They were all cut up from battle. They've got the water, which was salt water, splashing them, and that never bothers them.
So Spartacus wakes up and he's like, and his friend is like, oh yeah, it's been 3 days or something. So I'm just like, are these men just soiling themselves down below? They're chained, but it's just you know what? They're fine with it because they're Thracians and they got this.
That's really how they acted too. It's like, la la la, let's just get where we're going. I'm sorry, I could not do that.
Nope. And this is where I was picturing, wait a minute, the blonde woman, Glaber's wife. I'm like, did she go on a ship like this? In her fur coat with her bottle of wine? Excuse me? What was her journey like? So anyway, so they're heading, so now we're in Capua. So we get to Capua. How do you say her name? The blonde woman? Ilithyia?
Ilithyia, yep.
Okay, so basically he shows up, he's like, babe, I did amazing in Thrace, and she's like, everyone knows you didn't.
You're here way too soon to have conquered anything.
Yeah, so they kind of have a moment there, and then but she's like, the whole thing with her is we need to get my father to favor you. He doesn't, because you obviously suck. But she's like, okay, so my father's putting on her father, the senator, is putting on gladiator fights. And so Glaber is like, okay, well, I'll offer these Thracians as fighters, and that'll make your father support me. Maybe. Of course it won't work, but that's what he decides to do.
And of course, she is again caught in the middle of her father and her husband. She wants to please both of them. She knows her husband is not pleasing her father. She knows her father is the one with all the clout.
That's kind of the one who's more important.
Yeah,
obviously.
he has the money. He's a longtime senator. And so she's like, dude, we got to get you higher up on dad's ladder here, because this just, and she knows everything that Glaber suggests is probably a really shitty idea and it's not going to work.
He's the worst.
But she still goes along with it because she's hoping beyond all hope that this next idea is going to be the one that gets her father on his side. And so she starts gassing him up. Okay, yeah, we'll bring it to my dad, and hopefully that this will be the thing that gets you where you want to go. And then she goes to her dad, plays the daddy's little girl card to get his slaves, his newly acquired Thracian slaves, into the gladiator games. Because had Glaber gone and asked him, he'd have been like, fuck off, you little bitch, get away from me. Yeah. So she had to go and cry, and Daddy, please, this is what's going to take for him to prove his worth to you. And of course, Daddy's little girl, she gets what she wants. So yeah, he gets to have his Thracians go out on the sands and fight the gladiators. But it was not because Albinius had any sort of confidence in him on accomplishing anything.
No, he's just a useless person, Glaber. I'm glad that is the vibe I'm supposed to be getting from his character, because that is the vibe I was getting from his character.
Yes.
So the next scene is kind of like a classic, like 2010s cable show nude unnecessary orgy scene. There's a party, and my favorite part of it, so there's just like people, there's just like basically nude people, mostly women, just making out all over the place. But there's these women who are sort of like in like little shallow pools of water, just kind of like rolling around sensually. And I was like, these actresses must have gotten so raisiny.
And those are actually, those pools have very specific names and very specific meanings.
Okay, tell me about that in 1 second. But don't you agree that these nude actresses who would have spent a day or two or a week filming, writhing around in this water, like imagine being in a bathtub for that long, like your skin would just prune. Like
it would. And I'm sorry, you would have to pay me a whole hell of a lot of money. And that water would have to be warm, because if it wasn't warm and you had me rolling around in it, we'd have problems. Yeah. But it's just, I don't know. How do you cast for something like that? I
know how you cast for something like that, because I saw this in the trivia. There's a New Zealand company that's just like people who do nude events, and they just hired this company, and they're like, can you come here and do what you do? And we'll just edit in as much of it as we can and edit out what we can't. So it's just like a bunch of just people who do this professionally.
Would not be me, but more power to them.
Good for you, New Zealand. I don't know how much business they get, but it's just like boobs everywhere. So tell me about these pools, though, that these women are.
Okay, so typically this type of party would only be thrown by someone high in society, someone with a lot of money. And it would be thrown within their villa. Their villa, people had places to live, but you had a difference in what people had. Villas could be a smaller villa or a larger one. The more money you had, the larger your villa would be. The commoners would live in more like an apartment type of place. These pools were called impluvium. And what it was is they were a shallow, rectangular, sunken pool that would be in the center of the Roman house, in generally the atrium area. And the atrium would be like the main entrance hall, and it would be where they would throw most of their parties. This pool had a kind of a dual use. It was used to collect rainwater, to have water for the household. And so up directly above it would be an opening in the house. And that had a specific name too, complovium. And it was basically a sunroof in the villa, where would be the openings where the rainwater would come down, and they would collect it in the pools down at below. So it would be to collect the rainwater, but it would also be for these parties to have naked women rolling around in the water. So if you were a rich Roman with a nice villa, you would have this pool because it served a very specific purpose. The majority of its purpose was to collect the rainwater to give water for the household.
I don't want to drink the water after the women have been writhing around in it.
I really hope they would have swapped that out, but
I don't know.
You never know.
That doesn't sound like warm water either.
Yeah, no. I mean, but then you have to think about how often did it rain there? So, how would they throw that water out? Would they consider it a waste? Because if it had been a long time they hadn't gotten rain, I mean, would you waste that water? I mean,
I don't know. But this scene has just got a lot of boobs. And I recently read a book called Not Built in a Day by Emma Southern, who's an author who writes a lot about ancient Rome. And from that book, I learned that the most luxurious thing that you would do as a Roman man to show that you were like a rich and wealthy person, like you would present your beautiful young boy concubines. So the fact that this scene is all just like boobs, I'm like, that's not accurate. But they couldn't do a scene where it's just like boys. Like,
that would have not been accepted well. There was one particular thing that happens in this scene that the first time I saw it, literally every time I see it, I laugh. There is a little person.
I didn't even notice.
There's a little person that runs through there with kind of a helmet on, but the top of the helmet has a penis on it, an erect penis on it.
Didn't notice this at all.
So it looks like a horn coming out of his head, and he's running around the atrium with that on his head. And every time I see that, I crack up because I'm like, oh my God. But that's just how debaucherous these people were.
Yeah.
But they didn't consider it to be that. That was a typical rich Roman party. You had all of this stuff going on in your parties and no one batted an eye at it. In fact, they would partake in whatever it was that you had there. I mean, and you would have various different people performing at these. You would have the dancers, you'd have poets there giving sonnets in the corner. You would have gladiators doing fake fighting in the corner if that was what the party was promoting. You would have musicians there. You would have a lot of different things happening in this party. It would have been a constant stimulus thing going on, or whatever it was you chose to focus on, that would be the thing you focus on. But it could probably be overstimulating to some people, because let's be real, ADHD existed back then.
Yeah.
They just didn't know what it was. So there were probably people that were extremely overstimulated by what was happening at these stupid parties. But it was just really, like you said earlier, just one big orgy.
Yeah. No, so there's kind of like background orgies happening, but what we're going to do is meet a whole bunch of characters who are, I guess, main characters in this show that I have not watched before. So if you could, and some of them, two of them I recognize deeply.
Two people that are very, very well-known, an actor and an actress that you know who they are as soon as you see them.
Okay, so first, can we talk about Xena Warrior Princess? Lucy Lawless is here in a red wig. And who is her character?
Her character is Lucretia, and she is the wife of the main character, Batiatus.
And Batiatus is the brother from The Mummy, John Hannah.
He is. But have you ever heard his true accent?
No.
He's more like Scottish, I think it is.
Okay. Oh, yeah, he is Scottish. I think he's in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and he's Scottish in that. Yeah.
But he tones it down and makes it straight British in there. But Batiatus owns a Lanista, so that's he is a Lanista, and he owns a ludus, so he owns
Gladiator Training School.
Yep.
Okay.
So he's already established as that. This isn't something he's trying to work his way up in. He's established as having a ludus. He won't necessarily be considered the premier Lanista of Capua, but he is definitely a known one. He just has not. This will come up later. He hasn't really gotten the right gladiator to really put him above and beyond all the other luduses within Capua. So Batiatus is the main Lanista. Lucretia is his wife.
Lucy Lawless, Xena Warrior Princess. Yep. Which,
if you haven't watched Xena Warrior Princess, I mean, it's a bit outdated on because they don't really have CGI. But if you watch it, you have to appreciate this character even more if you watch Xena, because the attitude carries forward. The attitude of she knows she's the shit. Obviously, they're doing completely different things because you won't see Lucretia out there fighting anyone, but you gotta
I think
watch
it's sort of like in the sense of like Andy Whitfield like just embodies this character who's just like so you want to root for him. Like he's just such a main character energy. Like Lucy Lawless brings this with her. Like she's a tall, gorgeous, like full figured woman. Like she's muscular where it's just like you can't keep your eyes off of her. So like clearly like you cast her in a role that's going to be like a powerful woman. So I presume we're going to see a lot of her.
And fun fact, I believe she's married to Mr. DeKnight, who is the creator of the show.
Oh, well, that would make sense. And also they're filming it in New Zealand where I believe she lives.
Yeah,
so,
she has that accent. When she's not speaking in a British accent, she has a New Zealand accent.
So we meet some other people played by actors who I don't know, but one of them is the other Lanista, the rival, more successful one.
Yes, his name is Salonius, and he's a dick. And he knows he's a dick, and he carries himself as a dick on purpose because he somehow has gotten more of the favor when it comes to Lanistas within Capua. He is the one where if someone is going to throw some gladiator games to in honor of someone that may have passed away in their family, or just because they want to honor their family, they'll throw gladiator games. They would go to Salonius before they go to Batiatus because
he's like the more successful guy.
He is. And obviously Salonius and Batiatus fucking hate each other. Yeah. However, Salonius really likes Lucretia. And he does not hide his flirting with her at all. He definitely always gives her the look that you could do so much better than Batiatus. You should be with me because I would treat you like a queen kind of thing. So he's a really big antagonist in Batiatus's life because he's basically always going up against him when it comes to trying to secure his gladiators for gladiator games, because obviously you make money doing that. When your gladiators fight, you get paid for that. Whether they live or die, you get paid to have your gladiators in these games. And so you're going to want to get as many of your gladiators secured for these games as possible. And Salonius is always one-upping him on that. He's always got more of his men in there than Batiatus does. So obviously he's going to be unliked. Plus he's a dick.
This whole sequence is kind of like these guys come up, Batiatus comes out, he's like, and here's my gladiators. And it's like two guys. And then Salonius comes out and here's my like 17 gladiators. But two of those gladiators become main characters. You said, I don't remember them.
So there are the two gladiators that Batiatus puts up is Crixus is one of them. He's from Gaul, which is why I brought up Gaul earlier, because he's from Gaul.
Germany / France. Yeah.
And he is basically the current champion of Capua at the time, because he's introduced as the undefeated Gaul because he just goes out there and he wrecks shop. The other gladiator that Batiatus has is Barca, and he is from Carthage. And if you know anything about Roman history, Carthage is where
Hannibal
is from. Hannibal is known for marching war elephants through the Alps to get to the Roman legions to fight them with these humongous animals that probably none of them had ever even seen. Hannibal was a force, and Barca is from Carthage, which is where he's from. So obviously Barca is going to be this big man, and he's going to be a hell of a fighter because that's just kind of how they bred them there, apparently. So that's why those two really stand out, because they are the cream of the crop when it comes to the gladiators that Batiatus has at his ludus.
Okay, well, and also he only has two. So the other guy brings out a whole bunch, and he only brings out two. And then Glaber comes out, he's like, and here's my Thracians! And it's like Spartacus, his friend, some other guys. It's just like, these guys are all going to be the ones who get killed by the gladiators.
So we're going to have fun watching them being executed. And
of course, like, woo! They're excited.
That's the thing about Romans. They liked carnage. They liked to see, it didn't matter if to them, if it was a fair fight where, you know, it's a gladiator against a slave who can barely even pick up a sword because it's probably too heavy for them. They didn't care. They just wanted to see blood. They wanted to see someone get killed. And that's a mentality that sticks with the Roman Empire for years, because obviously you have the Colosseum later on where they have the gladiatorial battles and people just getting killed, getting dismembered. They lived to see that kind of stuff. And so obviously if Glaber comes in and says, oh, these are Thracian slaves of mine that are going to get killed ad gladom in the arena, they're going to be like, woohoo, more blood. They're not going to think anything of
let's
it.
watch some Thracians be killed. That sounds great.
Because why watch gladiators kill each other when we can watch them kill a lesser person and keep the gladiators for later fights, you know?
And the concept of this is kind of like execution. It's just like execution via gladiator. Like these guys, it's like they're quote unquote traitors, they're deserters. And so Glaber is like, yeah, I'm offering these guys up to be killed by the gladiators. And then we cut to there's some conversations, but we kind of covered what those are about. And then we're back to Spartacus under the amphitheater, chained up. It's kind of like, well, now you know how I got here. sort of
yeah.
vibe.
And, one thing I want to bring up is after they were introduced as being the slaves that were going to be killed, they were kind of just left there. Just like kneeling down, just everyone being able to still look at them. But imagine what this orgy looked like to them.
These women in the water, like there's just like the little person with the penis hat, like just like boobs everywhere. Like
that is not something they would have ever seen before. I mean, their jaws would have hit the ground. No, we don't do this kind of shit. But they would have been in awe of everything that they saw. Because number one, none of their homes would have been as big as that villa. Number two, they would have never seen the debauchery of a Roman party. And so that would have thrown them off their game. I mean, think about it, where that's pretty much the last thing you see before you go and sleep, before you go and you're going to fight. You're going to probably still be thinking about that shit because that's some wild shit that you've never seen before.
It's just like, oh, eyes wide shut. Okay, like what's happening? But also when you were talking earlier about like the size of the amphitheater, it's like 60,000 people. It's like to the Thracians as well. I didn't think about that. But like, so seeing this party is just like, what is happening? And then as soon as you're thrust out in the middle of that arena, it's just like 60,000 people in an arena. Like that's an unreal thing for anyone to experience.
And think about how that would have been sectioned out. So just like we've compared it to like an NFL stadium, it would have been kind of set up the way you would set up an NFL stadium, in the fact that you would have all of your regular seating, people buy their tickets to go, whatever. But then you would have your suites. You would have your executive boxes. That's what they had in this amphitheater. They had something called the pulvinus. And that is where the elite would sit. It's a box separated from all the plebs. When I say plebs, I'm talking about plebeians. And plebeians are just the common people it's just like the middle class of Rome. The plebs would be all in the common area. So they would be packed in like sardines and just sweating and dirty and screaming and spilling food and wine on each other, where you'd have the elite and the pulvinus in basically the owner's box, where they would be getting served wine and served food.
It's exactly that. It's exactly like the suites and
and being fanned because it was hot as hell. So they'd have a servant sitting there fanning them, and they'd be dressed in their nice clothing, and they'd be sitting there just looking at everybody else like you are beneath me kind of thing. And I mean, that is still something that's kind of carried on to today's society, where you have that at a stadium, where you have your suites, where the people that have the money are going to get the suite, and they're going to be separated from the general public, and they're not going to have to be dealing with as much of the screaming and all that. That's something that's just constantly carried over. But it would just be, to me, a lot more amplified back then, because so many more people were part of the plebeians than they were of the high society. So you'd have a very select few sitting in the pulvinus compared to the remaining 60,000 people that are packed into this theater. So it would have been a distinct thing that even the Thracians, when they went out there to fight, they would have been terrified, but they still would have noticed that, because it's kind of a hard thing to miss.
Well, it's kind of like all the Roman, like Glaber, and then like his wife, and then her dad, like, and then John Hannah from The Mummy, Lucy Lawless, like they're like the box is all kind of those characters.
Yep.
Yeah, sitting separate. So we see his friend who stole the wine is fighting against a gladiator. And like he does pretty good, but like he's wearing a loincloth, and like the other guy is in full armor and
very well trained. I mean, he is trained to go out there and kill people that are just as trained as him. So there's no way he can lose against someone that's just using. He was probably like a sheep herder or something back home. He would only pick up a sword to defend themselves when they needed to. He's not a trained fighter, so he's never going to stand a chance against a trained fighter.
Yeah. Well, and that reminded me at the beginning too, when Spartacus had his first scene with his hot wife, and he was like, you know, all I want to do is be a sheep farmer and like grow some wheat, and we'll do that soon, babe, as soon as I just do this one last army thing. So I'm just like, all of them just want to be little sheep farmers. Like, this is the life they want.
They just want to grow something and have a family and just be happy. That's all they wanted. And think about it. Honestly, most of us, all we want to do is just go to our job, do what we got to do, get our paycheck, come home and spend time with our family, go out and do fun things. We just want to live our lives. We don't want to get involved in the drama. We just want to live our lives. And it was the same with them. Obviously, they couldn't kick back and watch the 70-inch flat screen, but they could do fun things. They could just enjoy life.
Yeah, and not living this like constant blood sport nightmare. So his friend is killed. And then, so Alithia is just like, oh my God, aren't these Thracians great? Isn't Glaber's, wasn't it great? He brought these Thracians, and her dad's like, no, he sucks. Like, your husband still sucks.
Yeah. And it's funny because at the party where she was like, Daddy, look, all the people are happy that he's going to have all these Thracians be killed. He kind of looks at her and he's like, look, it might be working out now, but you come to me crying about him again, your tears are going to be met with basically a no. I'm not doing shit else for him. So she better do good in this, or it's the end of him. And he carries that attitude towards Glaber into the Pulvinus. We're like, I don't give a fuck what's happening with these slaves that are getting killed by gladiators. I still don't like your bitch ass, and I'm still not giving you anything. But, you know, go off, go do what you got to do. And he really portrayed that to Alithia, basically saying, my mind isn't changed just because the crowd likes what's happening with these Thracians. He's still a fucking bitch, and I don't want to do anything for him.
And honestly, good for the dad. I'm like, I can't believe I'm on the dad's side, but yeah.
Because, you know, he was an ass too, being an older senator. Man, he would have been so privileged that he would have been a dickhead himself, but Glaber was even more schmarmy than he was. And so he just didn't like him.
So Spartacus, he's up. It's his turn. Like, he's freed from where he was, you know, chained in the like waiting room. He comes out and he like looks hot as hell. And he, and I'm also just like, okay, the show is called Spartacus. Like, I know he's going to do well. And then just kind of to raise the stakes, because we know by now how good he is at fighting. We've seen all these battle scenes. So they don't just put him against one gladiator. They put him against 4 gladiators, because just to make it be a bit more suspenseful, because it would be too quick for him to dispatch one gladiator.
And the thing that I love about this scene is that they sent out different gladiator types.
And I didn't know there was different gladiator types, but yeah, you can see there.
He initially is fighting the guy that just killed his friend. He was Mormillo. You know, he has the longer sword and the gladius, the smaller sword, the longer shield and the smaller sword. Spartacus out there with just one sword, which was fucked up, because you can't fight someone that has a shield and a sword with just a sword. But they send out another Mormillo, but then they send out a Rotarius, which is someone that fights with a net and a trident. And then they sent out Hoplomachus, who they have a smaller round shield and a big sword. And they're able to have a little bit bigger sword because their shield is smaller and more lightweight. You can't have 2 heavy things, otherwise you just can't fight well. So either you have a heavy sword and a light shield, or a heavy shield and a light sword. So you had 2 of the same, but then you had 2 other ones. So, and they have totally different fighting styles. So the person with the net obviously is going to try to catch you up in the net and then stab you with the trident. So he fighting against these different forms of trained gladiators would be hard as hell, because you have to kind of shift how you're fighting against them, because they're fighting differently against you. Plus you got 4 people coming at you at the same time. Yeah, that is exactly why the crowd started booing.
Yeah, the crowd doesn't like it, and the dad doesn't like it. They're like, we don't want to watch a guy just like, they don't understand Spartacus's deal yet. But they're like, this is too much. And Glaber's like, no, but like Spartacus is the worst one. I need to like humiliate him
because he humiliated me.
Because he's so hot and capable. I have to make this as bad as possible. So at first it's like, yeah, like he's struggling, but then So he's on his knees and he looks up, and the gladiator, his shield has like a red serpent on it. And he's like, oh my God, this is like my hot wife saw in her dreams, me kneeling before like a serpent. And then he hears her voice in his head saying, kill them all.
And he just goes off. I mean, it's like something clicks in his head, and he's like, for Sura. And he's like something just possessed him. He's fighting in a way that someone in his position should not be able to fight against these trained gladiators. I mean, he's cutting off limbs. He's stabbing people in the side.
Was he cut off the one guy at the knees, and then the guy is like trying to crawl off.
Crawl away.
And Spartacus is just like, not on my watch, motherfucker. Like,
I mean, and one of them he kills by running the sword up underneath his chin, up through his whole head.
I had to turn away.
Oh, girl, that was the best one. I mean, he literally just thrusts it up underneath his chin, goes through the dude's whole head. Well, you're not surviving that, because that has taken out everything pertinent in your body. And I mean, he just kills these people in horrific ways. He cuts the arm off one of the other ones before he totally does him in. It's just like he accomplished something that a regular human should not have been able to accomplish. But it's Spartacus, and fuck you, he can accomplish anything. So with his loincloth and his leather boots.
He didn't need a shield. All he needed was a sword. Like, he's just like, he's got the power of just like excellence and hotness. And the crowd is just like, oh my God, fuck yeah, we love this guy. And of course, this makes Glaber look bad. Because this is supposed to be the grand finale, was the death of this guy. So I'm extra happy that Glaber is upset about it. And so then Spartacus looks up to the box.
The poll witness, yep. And he's looking at him like, bitch.
Glaber, like, exactly. Because,
I mean, Spartacus really gives him a look like, what else you got? I mean,
bro. Yeah.
That's really how he's looking at him. And Glaber's looking at him like, you motherfucker, you were supposed to die. How the hell did you do that? You made me look bad. Now you're making me look bad again in front of 60,000 people. Yeah. What the hell?
That's how much Glaber sucks. So the crowd is like, let him live, because this whole thing was supposed to be his execution. But Glaber's like, no, he's still sentenced to death. This was supposed to be his execution. And then the senator dad is like, well, it would be unwise to go against the crowd. And then Glaber's like, no, man, I hate him so much. He's so hot, and I hate him.
And Olivia even chimes in, but father, I mean, he had all this that he did towards my husband, but she tries to smooth it over by not necessarily it was against my husband, it was against Rome, because Romans were always like for Rome. It was everything they did was for Rome. So don't say that he committed all these grievances against my husband. Say it was a grievance against Rome to try to get my dad on my side. And her dad was still like, no, fuck that. He won.
But this is like the like ambitious yet not successful gladiator school owner, Badiatus, is like John Hannah from The Mummy. He's like, well, what if I buy Spartacus from Glaber and train him at my ludus to be a gladiator? Because he's obviously got like the raw talent. And Glaber's like, I don't want to. And the dad is like, do it, son-in-law, you bitch.
This is a good idea. It's what the crowd would like. And
you not want my favor? This is what you can do. Yeah.
And it's funny because if you had money, you were in charge. But when it came to gladiator fights, you really had to do what the crowd wanted you to do.
Yeah.
It didn't matter how high ranking you were.
People, if you didn't do what they wanted, like they could rush the stage, like anything. That's so many people.
Yes. So, I mean, the senator Albinius was like, fuck it, dude. I don't really care what he did to you. The crowd wants him to live. I got to let him live, man. Yeah. Get on board.
Like Glaber, I see that you have this like petty grievance against this like hot, excellent person, Andy Whitfield, but like, fuck you. I'm going to sell him to this guy, John Hannah from The Mummy, and to go train at gladiator school. And then he's like, okay, you're going to be allowed to live. But he's like, oh, first, but like he asks Glaber, like, what's this guy's name? And then like the whiny little bitch he is.
Yes, because I mean, he just had that pouty look on his face, like a 2-year-old that was told they can't have ice cream. He was just he should have just like folded his arms and just went, because that's the look he had on his face. And he responded, I never cared to ask.
You didn't even ask the name of your arch nemesis. You goddamn bitch. Oh, here's the thing though. I was thinking Spartacus is so competent, capable, hot, amazing performance, like wonderful. It's like you need to have someone like Glaber to just be, he has to be so awful to balance how amazing Spartacus is. So I'm like, I respect the show, like had to make him so awful, but I'm just like, I really hope this season, while Andy Whitfield is still on the show, the Glaber gets killed. But don't tell me.
I'm not saying a word.
But I want to see that happen. So anyway, they're like, well, we don't know his name. And then Batiatus is like, well, there was a famous legendary Thracian king called Spartacus, so let's call him Spartacus. And then the dad is like, okay, he can live. And the crowd is just like, fuck yeah, we love this guy. Like, oh my God, he just cut the guy's legs. We love him. And the crowd starts to chant, Spartacus, Spartacus. And then just Glaber and Spartacus are just like...
They're just like mean mugging each other. Like if looks could kill, they would both be dead. Because Spartacus is looking at like, fuck you, I won, and I'm getting pardoned. And Glaber is like, you fucking bitch, you were supposed to die. You're still making me look bad. They just, the hatred was deep from there on out.
Yeah, no, and this is like, this is the first episode of our podcast, and this is the first episode of the show, but the show really establishes like so many things that you're telling me are going to pay off later, but it's really just like, here's the stakes, here's what's up, here's the people, here's this rivalry, like it really sets everything up really well, I think.
This isn't the most action of the series in this episode, but this episode was so necessary to show you why so many things happen later on in the season and in the series. If you didn't have some of this background on some of these people and some of the hatred and some of the ass kissing, if you didn't have that background, you'd be kind of confused why things would be like, oh, why does he hate him so much?
Yeah, no, you're right. It was a really hard thing for them to do, and they did it in like an hour-long episode. I think it was an hour of just setting up so many people and so much history and so much background. Like they had so much to set up, and they did. Like they got everything.
They did, and now they just from here on out they just hit the ground running.
Yeah, it's a 13 episode season, and when you have a series that's like that few episodes, it's like so much has to happen in each episode. So I'm excited to see. There's not room for just like let's just have a fun episode. No, everything.
No.
Things have to happen.
I can't imagine there was anything too fun about anything that happened. If Spartacus actually existed, I can't imagine there was anything fun about his life after he became a gladiator.
No, I don't think you could. True, fair. You can't really have a fun episode of this unless it's just like a day in the life of those women in those pools.
Yes. And the thing about it is from if I remember correctly, the whole story of Spartacus takes place before Julius Caesar.
It does. Yeah.
It takes place before Augustus. It takes place quite BC. And so it's a story that started like thousands of years ago that we still talk about today. Again, this is another one of those things where typically we're talking about women in history, how their story has continued on until today. This is a story that, number one, no one even knows if he actually existed or not, or if this is just a story someone created. But for let's just say for shits and giggles, it's a story that was just created that still exists today, that still interests people today. I mean, that's a hell of a story.
Well, that was something like when we decided to do this show, I'm like, I don't want to do too much deep diving into it because I want to be surprised by the events. But I did look up. I'm like, I know that there's that movie Spartacus with like Charlton Heston from the 1950s. Mm-hmm. And so I assumed, I didn't know the basis of that. I thought that this show was like inspired. I thought there was a book. I thought this was all a book, but it says, oh no, this is actually a historical thing. Like, did the person exist or not? So like this show is inspired by the history. The movie Spartacus was inspired by a novel that was inspired by Spartacus. So it's like the story keeps being told and retold. Like there's something captivating about the idea of somebody who's enslaved and then breaks free, and just like there's something satisfying, and like I think everyone can root for someone like that.
Yeah, because if you know the story of Spartacus, he doesn't necessarily bring Rome completely to their knees, but he gets them down to at least one knee
for quite a while too. Yeah.
And that's quite an accomplishment because that was kind of at the height of Rome. I mean, they were flourishing at that time. They weren't, getting conquered by anyone because they were spreading themselves too thin. At this point, they were a force to be reckoned with. And if you could accomplish that, that was amazing.
Well, and that's why I think you have someone like Andy Whitfield's performance as Spartacus. Like, who is going to be able to do that to Rome? And it's like, it has to be such an incredible person. And the way that he portrays Spartacus, just in this first episode, I'm like, I can see that is the person who could do that. Like, he's just such a strong character.
And if you're in love with him now, you're just going to be more in love with him episode by episode, because he just, Andy just does a phenomenal job. And Spartacus just, he knows who he is. And he never lets that go. He might have to make some compromises here and there to survive, but Spartacus knows who the fuck he is.
Yeah. It's such a good performance. Like, our next episode is going to be episode 2, which I have not yet watched. So I don't know what's going to happen. Can you give a hint of what happens in episode 2?
I don't want to spoil too much, but it's basically going to be, his initiation to
gladiator school,
being part of the Ludus. Yes. Obviously he's the shiny new toy in the toy box. So Batiatus is going to be a little bit more enamored with him, and the existing gladiators are not going to like that because no one ever likes to feel like they're being replaced. So the next episode is going to kind of show him trying to get acclimated to his new surroundings getting acclimated to him. We find out more, we meet more new characters that reside within Batiatus's villa. We start seeing more of the dynamic between Lucretia and Batiatus and realize that they are just as ride or die as anyone could ever be. We start seeing what his life is really going to start to becoming. So again, I don't want to give away too much, but it's just, it shows him in his new surroundings and sort of some of the pitfalls that go along with something like that, especially when you're going to be surrounded by a bunch of men with so much testosterone going through them, because that's what a gladiator would have. And so, there's going to be a lot of headbutting.
I can imagine, and I have to imagine because I haven't watched it yet. But so episode 2, Sacramentum Gladiatorum. So that episode will be out in 2 weeks. And so I want to let everybody know you can keep in touch with us. So we're on Instagram at NeferTVPodcast. So please follow us there and comment on our posts and stuff. I want to know what everybody thinks. And if you also want to share your thoughts with us, we have an email, so you can do you remember watching this show? What are your thoughts about? And I hope as people listen to this podcast and if they send us their thoughts when we get to episode 4 or episode 5, we're like, oh, this person emailed about this, and we can share people's thoughts as we get to them. So let us know. You can get in touch with us. So again, Instagram, NeferTVPodcast. Our email account is NeferTVPodcast@gmail.com. And again, it's NeferTV podcast@gmail.com. And then also I have a Patreon. So it's Ann Foster Writer. So patreon.com/Ann Foster Writer, where if you join there as a paid Patreon, you can get these episodes without the ad break in the middle. And it's kind of a funny thing because I have the Patreon and Gina, you're coming and bringing value added content. So if you want to support this podcast, it's my Patreon, but we are a team on the show. And I don't know, it's our first episode, so I feel like we want to have a farewell tagline. We want to have something to be so I don't know if it's keep fighting or I don't know if it's just Spartacus, I don't know.
And we're open to suggestions. So if you want to email some suggestions on what you would like to hear at the end of the episodes, we are willing to hear them.
What did he say after when he killed all the people? He was yelling for his wife. What did he say? He's for Sora.
Yeah, for Sora, yes.
That could be today's tagline.
Yes, this episode would have been all about for Sora.
You know what? In memory of the hot wife. And again, I don't know. Does she reappear in the show? I don't know. Don't tell me. But we'll see.
I'm not saying a word.
Until next time, for Sora. NeferTV is hosted by Gina Berry and Ann Foster. Our editor is Christina Lumagi. The show image is by Karen Moynihan. And social media images are by Magdalena Denson.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
The war is over, and both sides lost. Kingdoms were reduced to cinders, and armies scattered like bones in the dust. Now the survivors claw to what's left of a broken world, praying the darkness chooses someone else tonight. But in the Shadow Dark, the darkness always wins. This is old school adventuring at its most cruel. Your torch ticks down in real time, and when that flame dies, something else rises to finish the job. This is a brutal rules-light nightmare with a story that emerges organically based on the decisions that the characters make. This is what it felt like to play RPGs in the 80s, and man, it is so good to be back. Join the Glass Cannon podcast as we plunge into the Shadow Dark every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/theglasscannon with the podcast version dropping the next day. See what everybody's talking about and join us in the dark.
Oh, please, not that music. That music gives me nightmares from my childhood.
Could we get something a little bit lighter, some lighter music here?
Are you a fan of true crime TV shows?
And what about Unsolved Mysteries, the show that jump-started all of our love of true crime?
I'm Ellen Marsh.
And I'm Joey Taranto.
And we host I Think Not, a true crime comedy podcast covering some of the wildest stories from your favorite true crime campy TV shows all the way to Unsolved Mysteries.
Baby, you will laugh, you will cry, you'll think about true crime in a whole new way, and you'll also ask yourself, who gave these people mics?
New episodes of I Think Not are released every Wednesday with bonus episodes out every Thursday on Patreon.
And every Monday, you can listen to our True Crime Rundown, where we go over the top true crime headlines of the week.
So come and join us wherever you listen to your podcasts.